Boxing Truth here, back with another video. Be sure to smash that like button, like and subscribe, all that good stuff. Alright, let's talk about Canelo Alvarez.
Tenemos que demostrar y seguir.
Let's talk about the offers that was presented to him prior to the Canelo Smith fight. And there's been some aggressive offers towards Canelo. Eddie Hearn was able to get him for a one fight deal. Canelo whooped on his fighter Canelo Smith in relatively easy fashion. Canelo did what I said he would do, make easy work of Canelo Smith. And now Eddie Hearn is now looking to put in place a two-fight deal for Canelo going forward to see if he can get him with at least have another crack at trying to get him beat with one of his fighters, and that is Billy Joe Saunders. First, the mandatory with Abney Yildirim in Mexico to get that out of the way. Canelo surprisingly going to fulfill a mandatory challenge. And then move on to a big fight in the month of May. Just in line for Cinco de Mayo dates and September dates. As soon as he gets his mandatory out the way. We'll see if that two-fight deal pans out. But what's interesting is that PBC offered Canelo $75 million for 3 fights. The first was going to be Caleb Plant, which is why that was being reported in the news about Canelo possibly fighting Plant. As I said in a previous video, there's no way Heyman is going to allow Canelo to fight Plant with at least a 2-fight deal or a 3-fight deal that's going to be in place for him if he was to defeat a Caleb Plant. Heyman's going to protect himself in case he keeps stomping on one of his fighters. So he offered him 25 for Caleb Plant. Not a bad purse, you know. Also another fight in at least one of the fights, or the final fight, would have been a catchweight fight. 166-pound catchweight with Jamal Charlo. Now, Canelo turned it down, and rightfully so. And here's why. One, he didn't want to commit to 3 fights with the same guaranteed price tag. He didn't want to commit to himself to 3 fights for the same amount of money, especially when you consider a Jamal Charlo to be a bigger fight compared to a Caleb Plant unification. How are you going to make 25 for Plant but only the same amount for Charlo? Should be a price increase for that type of fight. I mean, Charlo does bring a Houston fan base, a little more buzz behind the promotion compared to a Caleb Plant fight. Some people actually think Charlo will beat Canelo Alvarez, so the odds for that fight won't be as lopsided. But yeah, you can read between the lines in the deal that Heyman presented to him. The same guaranteed fight purse for each fight, $25 million for each of those 3 fights, which is why Canelo turned it down. Didn't feel like committing to 3 fights for the same amount, for the same guaranteed purse. Also, Heyman was trying his best to not put Jamal Charlo at such a disadvantage by moving up in weight in his first fight and fighting a pound-for-pound great fighter in Canelo Alvarez. So he was trying to do his best to make sure he's not at much of a disadvantage, give him the best chance possible to help out Jamal Charlo in possibly upsetting Canelo Alvarez. Obviously, the goal for Heyman in this deal was to have one of his fighters beat Canelo. You know, Heyman don't really... I mean, he usually feeds Mexican fighters to one of his up-and-coming fighters in his stable. And for Canelo Alvarez, he was going to try to use his name, put him in these fights with his premier champions or in some cases, protected champions. And he was going to try to do his best to rob Canelo, rob his name recognition, and big up one of his fighters. Because Canelo is not signing into long-term deals to any promoter. Not going to be with Eddie. It's not going to be with Bob. It's not going to be with Al Heyman. He might have to commit to one, to 2-fight deals, 3-fight deals at worst. But this goes to show you that Canelo ain't trying to sign no long-term deals. But that's good news. He'll be in position to make these fights. Not just commit themselves to just one network or one promoter. But it looks like his next 2 fights are going to be on DAZN. And the question is, who really out there can beat Canelo? I don't see it at 168. Caleb Plant has a tricky style. He has a boxing style that perhaps could create some problems with Canelo, but can he really win a decision against Canelo in fair circumstances? No, I don't think he can. Canelo's too flashy. He's too judge friendly with his punches, too sharp, too clean with his shots, and he's the better fighter offensively compared to Plant. I don't see Plant winning a decision against Canelo. Don't see him hurting Canelo either. If he was to win that fight, it would have to be a clear-cut dominant decision display, and I don't think he's capable of that. I'm not really interested in the Canelo Plant fight, to be honest. But if that's what's being brought out there for a possible unification fight in 2021, then by all means, I don't mind. But I don't think Plant has what it takes to beat Canelo Alvarez. Billy Joe Saunders in the same situation. He doesn't have the power to knock out Canelo. Might have enough boxing ability to cause him fits and to make it interesting. But again, do you see Billy Joe Saunders getting a decision against Canelo Alvarez on American soil? No, I do not. He doesn't have the power to knock him out. And is he good enough to outbox him in a definitive fashion? I don't think he is. I don't think he's good enough. I don't think he's had good enough performances. Too inconsistent as a fighter to really put it all together for one night and to try to defeat the pound-for-pound king in Canelo Alvarez. It's not gonna happen. You gotta be a good boxer. You gotta have some punching power. You gotta have conditioning. You gotta have a good chin. You gotta have it all to beat Canelo. So who at 68 can really overtake Canelo Alvarez? Abel Sanchez, I watched an interview of his. He seems to think that is David Benavidez. David Benavidez has the physical talent, the punching power required that's needed in a Canelo fight. The speed, the power. But does he have enough experience? Does he have enough fights under his belt? Does he have the discipline? That remains to be the question. I think Canelo beats David Benavidez right now because David Benavidez has been getting stripped of his titles, losing his titles on the scale, not showing that he's as disciplined. There's just a different lifestyle there. Canelo, that could be a distance fight, and Canelo overtakes him in the second half of that fight. Be a great fight, though. Be interested to see. I think David Benavidez will be the most challenging fight at 68 for Canelo. But that don't mean he's going to beat him. So Canelo rightfully turned down that 3-fight deal by PBC. You can read between the lines. Trying to rob him for these protected baby champions. Not even offering him a higher payday for a Jamal Charlo fight and a catch weight of 166 pounds. Well, Charlo too small to go up to 168. What's the deal? You want that fight? Charlo, you gotta go to 168, bro. You gotta follow the A side. You gotta do what you gotta do. Shit, Golovkin gotta do the same shit if he's ever gonna fight Canelo again. You gotta move his ass up to 168. He's the A side. He calls the shots. You want the fight, then you gotta do what he says. Come to 168, take your little flat feet, whatever he gives you, and try to beat him up. Try to beat him. Do the best you can. But right now, Canelo is king, man. Ain't nobody gonna beat this cat right now. Not for the time being. Canelo is not a young 30 though, as Oscar said. I see in about 3 years Canelo's gonna start slowing down because he has a lot of mileage. He has a lot of fights. He's had many operations. But right now, at this moment, he's in his absolute prime. But he's not a young 30. So enjoy it for now. You're seeing the greatest fighter of this era peaking and at his absolute best. And he's going to show you how even great he is, even more, when he takes on different styles, fleet-footed guys, boxers. You're going to see the improvement and just how good of a boxer Canelo really is. So let's see if these other 68-pound champions have what it takes to try to dethrone the king. It ain't gonna happen though. Not in 2021. But we'll see. We'll see who has what it takes to beat Canelo in the next couple of years. But right now he's in the zone, man. And he was right to turn down that PBC deal. This is Boxing Truth. I'm out.